presses, which is the hottest, most controversial Supreme Court decisions that come down in the next week or two. And has a 4-week program this summer in person in Evanston on Monday afternoons. Margot and I are going to do a summer group this summer called, you want to talk about it?
Can you hear me? Okay. The name of the I want to see you. The name of the group is Ask the CIA. The text we're using is cia.gov/World Fact Finder. It is all data, and people taking this class have got to analyze the data. Let me back up a minute. The premise is that these days there are some very exciting tour destinations that are being glamorized in all kinds of tour brochures, and there's some very exotic ones like Sri Lanka and Vietnam and Morocco, Tunisia. Behind the beautiful ports, there are countries that are waiting for business and students and investment and sports teams. Countries that are waiting for something besides in addition to tourism. And we're going to be looking at the data of these countries and deciding which ones we would invest in. We being the class. 4 weeks, 8 countries. And members of the class can pick which one of these exotic places that will lead the discussion, analyzing the data. You can find World Fact Finder. It's really interesting, but you got to use your imagination.
Okay, quickly, 2 more in the fall for the first 7 weeks. Deb Klamich, I don't know if she's here. There she is. And I and Ann Stallmack, who usually goes to the Chicago campus, are going to do a 7-week program for the first 7 weeks. We're going to go to zoos, Lincoln Park Zoo, Brookfield Zoo, and probably Shedd Aquarium. And we're going to investigate, how zoos operate and what they do for education and conservation and all the other things they do, and talk about all that. So it'll be 4 weeks in class and 3 field trips, we hope. The second 7 weeks, Chuck from my China class, whose name but he's a retired China professor, and I are going to do a short book that's about how the British stole the tea industry from China and took it and put it in the Indian Himalayas. So it's a fascinating story about a guy named Robert Fortune. And we're also going to look at current tea production and go to tea houses and things like that. So lots of fun to be had.
Who wants to go next? Gordon.
Tom, do you want to join me?
Sure.
Tom Mueller and Andrew Griffin, a good friend of ours who isn't here today, and I will be leading a 7-week course journey back to the 18th century. So let me just read what the announcement says. In October 1773, Dennis Diderot, the century's most subversive thinker, arrived in wintry St. Petersburg as a guest of a most ambitious, admired, and powerful ruler, Empress Catherine of Russia. At her invitation, they held 40 private meetings at which Diderot expected to guide her, who had a very different understanding of her and his role. His of writing on unfeeling paper, and she of writing on human skin, sensitive to the slightest touch. We will talk about the personalities, the events, and the happenings. From this book, it's not so much. It's 230 pages plus other readings. We look forward to you joining us on our journey. 7 weeks. 7 weeks. First half. Thank you.
Is Fred Wellish here?
Yep.
Okay, why don't you come up, Fred? For the fall, Fred and I are going to be doing a 14-week study group. This book is called James. It's by Percival Everett, who's an African-American writer who's written about 36 books, and I never heard of him before. But this one, published this year, is getting a lot of press. It's a retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn from the viewpoint of the enslaved man Jim. And so in our study group, first we're going to read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is a lot of fun and funny, and then we'll be reading James and making the comparison. And it's really interesting because Everett's perception of James is not at all what one would expect was true of enslavement at the time. So it's going to be very challenging. Thank you. Want to say something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're not familiar with Percival Everett, he's the guy who wrote Erasure, which a movie American Fiction was based on. So this is his novel, James.
Thank you. Thanks.
Are you
No, I'm waiting. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kate McKeon. This is Susan Kay. There's another person who's doing our class with us, Cecilia Trudeau. And we're doing a class called Unsung Heroines and Unfinished Struggles in the Civil Rights Movement. You will have all heard of Martin Luther King and Abernathy and John Lewis, but you haven't heard about all the women, the brilliant women who were also involved in the Civil Rights Movement and who have gone completely unregarded since that time. So one book we're reading is called Freedom's Daughters by Lynn Olson, and it talks about women all the way back to Ida Wells and Mary McLeod Bethune, and takes us all the way through women in SNCC. Huh? Yeah, Pauli Murray. And then the second book we're reading is a thin one called A More Beautiful and Terrible History by a woman named Joanne Theo Harris. And she talks about the myths that have grown up around the civil rights movement in the United States. The myth that racism was something confined to the South. The myth that the national media were supportive of civil rights, which they were in the South, but not so much in the northern cities. All the struggles in supposedly liberal northern places like Los Angeles and Chicago and Boston and New York, that there were civil rights struggles going on there that went pretty much unheralded. And also that book talks a little bit about the role of children in the civil rights movement. It's a 12-week class. It's on Thursday afternoons.
We're hoping.
Yeah.
Thursday afternoon. Okay. So what do you say?
So join us.
Yeah.
Hi, there's 3 of us who are going to be doing a class on gentrification, and we're using a book called How to Kill a City, in Gentrification, Inequality, and the Fight for the Neighborhoods. The book basically covers San Francisco, Detroit, New Orleans, and one other. Anyway, we're going to look at Chicago at the end of the process. And part of it is going to be trying to define what gentrification is, whether it's good or bad. I mean, we all, like the idea that our housing goes up in price, but we don't like the idea that our taxes go up at the same time. We don't like the idea that somebody tears down this house that's the same as ours next to us and puts up a mega mansion. But anyway, it's what we're going to look at. I mean, Evanston has a history here of tearing down mega mansions and building smaller houses at different times in our history here. So anyway, there's Sergio de los Reyes and Ken Bales are going to join me. So come and join us. It should be a good discussion. It should be a fun class.
Jerry. Hey, Jerry.
I'm Mary Hummel. Jerry Bernstein and Mel Goldstein and I are doing a history class. It's this book, What Hath God Wrought? The Transformation of America, 1815 to 1848. So this is part of the Oxford University series on American history. It's a really important time in our country when the country expanded from the original 13 states to 30 states. Huge increase in land mass. There were tremendous changes in communications with the invention of the telegraph and in transportation with the railroads. And that expansion exposed a lot of cracks in the foundation of the country, which grew wider over time. So there was a split between the ideals of the founders and the fact that we had this southern economy based on slavery. So this book details all of those changes that happened and the conflicts that ensued and the tremendous achievements that Americans made during that time. It's a big book, so we're dividing it into 2 terms. The first one will be in the fall and the second one in the spring. Did I say anything? Did I miss anything?
In the summer, John Drodo and I are doing a study group based on a book called The Quartet. And it's about, it was written by Joseph Ellis, who did Founding Brothers and got the Pulitzer Prize for that. It's about Washington, Hamilton, Jay, and Madison, how they pushed the Confederation of States to move to a constitutional convention and then a constitution. The book is about 260 pages long, fits very nicely into 4-week summer. We'll be doing the study group here in person. The first one, they're both in person, the other one's in person as well. Okay, thank you.
This breaks. This is science. This is one with John, but I'll come up later.
The coordination from some of us who do classes with others, and he says, "Is this the one you're doing with me?" John Doherty and I, Brenda Russell, and Maureen Shaman in the fall. The title is The Impact of Climate Change on Life, and we're using 2 sources. A small book, we look really hard for resource material. And this one is Global Warming, the Mass Extinctions of the Past and what they can tell us about our future. And also we're going to use the NOVA PBS series, The Ancient Earth. John, you should say something.
Yeah, I think that part of what we're trying to do is there's been multiple mass extinctions due to natural climate change over time. We want to talk through those and what the implications of what happened then and how what we're doing now is similar or not, and the scale and timing of that. And for those of you who took our dinosaur and mammals class, we talked a lot about extinctions, specifically for different animals. This is expanding that to what happened to planet.
And there will be a field trip to the Field Museum. John's a docent down there. We don't know when.
And the field has examples of the climate changes throughout.
And no prior knowledge is required, but curiosity is, participation is.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to come do the science?
Sure. I thought you were going to say there will be another extinction. God, I'm so happy you didn't do that. Okay, so you've got the summer. Brenda and I are co-coordinators in a course called Science in the News. I will not be doing that in the summer, but I will be doing it in the fall. The summer coordinator with you,
Susan Gow.
Susan Gow, and then in the fall we have Phil Steptoe. We base this on Scientific American magazine. We take at least a couple of articles per week from the magazine. But we have a broad range of sources. We can take any science that people would like to discuss. We have just great topics, groundbreaking things that are happening around us. exploration in space, you name it. So we have, that will occur in the summer, 4 weeks, and then in the fall, full.
We asked for feedback this morning about what we should have put in the blurb in the syllabus, and the feedback said, you should have said you don't need to know any science. You should just come. And everyone's welcome. No, you don't have to have a PhD like Emily does, or know everything about cicadas like Ashley does. But you have to want to know something about that. But we're friendly.
She throws a good pizza party too.
Yeah, pizza party.
So neither of my co-coordinators are here. I don't know why. So, very quickly, Bev Snell and I are going to be doing a 4-week summer course on the bad boys of mystery. And so we're going to be reading Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon and Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep, and we'll be watching the movies. So I think this one is really going to be a hoot and easy and really fun to do. In the fall, with too many authors to go into, we're going to read 4 authors that write mysteries set in medieval times. And we will also be looking beyond the mysteries at some of the events that were taking place in the medieval times that impacted these mysteries. Just a personal note, the Brother Cadfael ones take place during a civil war in England, and the king on one side of it, King Stephen, is sort of buried in Michael Plumpton's hometown in Faversham. The reason we say sort of buried was they had thrown the bones out, and then when another king was coming through, they sent urchins out into a creek, and one of them picked up a big skull, and they said that looks like a kingly skull, and they put him back in the church. But that gives you a feel for the times, right? And then Paul Lehman, who's not here, he's out of the country right now, but had come up with a wonderful idea for a course, and I'm just co-coordinating with him. It will be the second 7-week course, the second 7 weeks of the fall semester, and will be on Bruce Springsteen, the stories behind the music, and really looking at Springsteen as an American cultural icon, and what the influences have been on him, and what he has influenced, and the different genres of music that he has used, as well as the other arts that he has taken up. So yes, sometimes I think about a musician beyond Bob Dylan. But so that'll be a really good one too. And so we just urge you to look at both of them. And our summer course, I believe, is on Wednesday afternoons. And all of these are in person.
I'm Suzanne Farrand, and I am co-coordinating a group in the fall with Leslie King. And I first want to remind you that the only real truth is in fiction. So I would like to recommend your participation in a study group that will be based on this text, The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich. If you have read Louise Erdrich, you know what an extraordinary storyteller and just expert in language. I mean, she is extraordinary. This book, not only is it the winner of the Pulitzer Prize from 2021, it is also the selection for One Book, One Northwestern this upcoming year, which means when you read this book, you will be reading it with, 2,000 undergraduates, a bunch of graduates. There's lots of programming that's associated with this, events, exhibitions, and the author herself will be coming to campus on October 15th, so you'll have an opportunity to listen to her. This is about, if you saw, and I just saw it in my bonus film group this week, if you have seen Killers of the Lost Moon, Flower Moon, this is some of the same themes about how the government has been has not been honest with us about how Native Americans have been treated and continue to be treated. Louise, this is a novel, but it's based on her grandfather, who was a Chippewa tribal elder, and the challenges he had when in 1953, a date that you all remember, in 1953, when the government decided that they were going to emancipate Native Americans by taking their lands back. So that's what this book is about. And I really encourage you, it is a true story, but it is written as a novel and as a work of fiction. And you really should read more fiction. You really should.
I'm stepping in for two reasons. One is to get an extra cookie, which you all should do too. The other is to add an extra plug for Suzanne's study group because of the One Book, One Northwestern component. It's a great opportunity to connect back to the university. This is something that is also part of the strategic plan, I believe, how to connect back to the university more. This is a great way to do it. Suzanne has done so much work to connect to this wonderful program, and I highly recommend it and look for more options. Even if you don't make it into this study group, keep your eyes open for those opportunities. So, have a cookie.
So I'm Janet Jablon, and once again, this is John Doherty. Before I give my own spiel, I do want to thank Connie and Fred, because I had hoped to possibly coordinate a study group on James and Huck Finch, and now I get to participate without having to do the work, just the reading, so thanks. So John and I are going to offer a study group this fall on archaeological discoveries that changed or rewrote history. The text for the study group has a similar title, 10 Archaeological Discoveries That Rewrote History. It's written by a Stanford archaeologist, Patrick Hunt. It's a relatively short text, so we hope to supplement our work with podcast, videos, articles, hopefully personal experiences of some of our members who have visited sites of interest, and a field trip to the Institute for the Study of Ancient Civilizations.
Ancient Near East History. It used to be called the Oriental Museum.
Right, that's what I remember.
I think some of the topics that we're talking about are things like the Rosetta Stone was discovered, changed the whole understanding of Egypt. Or for those of you who have been in China, the discovery of the Terracotta Warriors changed people's whole perception. So there are things that we thought we knew history, the archaeologists discovered things, and all of a sudden what we thought was true was no longer true, and a whole other environment was opened up for people to understand cultures that existed in a level of detail we never had an understanding of. And many of you have visited those, so we hope join us and give your rich experiences of having been there and discovered those in your own journey.
Okay, I'm Bob Jenkins. Wasn't planning on coming up because the only ones I will speak of now are a couple of 4-week courses. One of them is Zoom. OLLI goes to the opera on Zoom. I've been struggling to try to come up with a way to bring opera in, even though I know nothing about it. In the winter, I thought, well, gee, OLLI, some people on fixed income, let's see if we can go $0. So we looked for 4 operas that were readily available, but they needed to also have captions, because folk like me who haven't grown up with opera need that. So we had a group, and as expected, everyone in the group knew a lot more about opera than I did, including this Roger Parfit, who will become for the first time a coordinator of a 4-week one. Now, we ran out, we really couldn't find that much good content for free, so the deal is, hopefully not too off-putting, is if you can get a free 1 week and then pay 1 month for $15 to get the Met on demand, Metropolitan Opera on demand. And the first 3 of the operas that would be of the 4 are ones that'll be visible to people in the near future. I think a couple are at Lyric. Well, maybe one is at Ravinia and another one at Lyric. So anyway, so looking for different modalities, but also trying to be on the cheap. 4 week, if we did 14 weeks, I guess people would be up to $60 or more. That might be hard for folk. But anyway, so that's one. The other one, again, my goal here was to bring in new coordinators. So I've got a couple coordinators, one of whom knows a hell of a lot about birds that I don't know and had parents who were birders. And this one is going to be What an Owl Knows. And that one will be in person Wednesday afternoons here in Evanston. The Zoom one, well, I guess you could probably figure that, that's Monday afternoons. But I think to bring in more people increases the diversity of possible content, which hopefully will serve the broader needs better. So.
This has really been fun hearing about all the things that are coming up. My name is Michael Jablon. I'm just going to put in a short plug that at the end I'll be in the back talking to anyone who wants to hear more about coordinator development, because that's key to our ongoing success. And it is a lot of fun, so please see me about that if you have any interest. I think that we're about education, and the study group that is being proposed by Rick O'Connor and me is going to be educational, but through entertainment. So what could be bad about that? You have to be able to look at subtitles, because it's going to be about foreign films. And I'd like to read the blurb, because I think that most succinctly tells you what the class will be about. Okay, so our title is Exploring Foreign Films, A Global Cinematic Journey. Come along as we dive into the rich and diverse world of international cinema. In this study group, we will watch at home and discuss in class films from around the world. It will be like worldwide travel from the comfort of your own living room, but without having to cram yourself into a claustrophobic airline seat or experience the disorientation of time zone shifts. We will watch films from places like France, Iran, Mexico, Sweden, or Korea. At times, we will tackle classic films from the masters such as Truffaut, Bergman, or Fellini, and at other times, we will view the latest international cinema has to offer. Each week, a study group member will select a film and lead the discussion as participants share their insights and perspectives. Films selected will be widely available through streaming services, rental, or the public library. Join us for a captivating journey through the lens of world cinema. And additionally, we will be looking at the cultures of the countries of origin. So hopefully you'll consider that. It should be entertaining, not too taxing, and certainly it could be your third class, whatever else you might be doing. Thank you.
Was that summer or fall?
It's fall. That is, if it's accepted. It's been proposed.
We'll see. You want to go now? Sure. No, you do it. You can do it.
But obviously you watch
Stephanie Lerner Ernstein and I have a summer program, 4 weeks. It's based on a book by Jonathan Haidt called The Anxious Generation. Some of you may notice that our Gen Zers are suffering from various problems, anxiety, depression, serious issues. Haidt's thesis is that the uptick in this problem coincides with the development of the smartphone and social media. And he gives a very powerful case backed up by evidence. He tells us about what the lack of normal play, how that has brought about some of these problems, differences between girls and boys that are important in this area. So I think it's going to be a very important class and impactful.
Stephanie?
The only thing I would add is that he gives solutions. It's not just, here's what's going wrong. He has very thoughtful solutions that schools can do, that parents can do, that grandparents can do, that society can do. And as Jeff knows, because I've been sending him lots of things, it's very current in the news right now. And so almost every day there's an article about it. And so we will most likely include those as well. Bob, do you want to come up? Take two. So that's summer. Fall, Bob, and Sue Bowker are going to be leading again theater in Chicago. We read 7 scripts, then we see 7 plays, and then the second week we go ahead and we compare what we read to what we saw. We go to dinner usually beforehand. We try to make it as accessible as possible. We provide carpools. We try to do theater tickets as cheaply as we can by group rates. You were going to add something else.
Yeah, I just, I'm principally from Chicago, so I'm kind of a transplanter today, but this is such a wonderful class that I look forward to it every week. I look forward to my travel to Evanston, typically on the Purple Line. And while I'm up here too, I just wanted to plug, I'm coordinating a couple classes. They're really out of Chicago, but one is we're doing tours of the University of Chicago campus. We're calling it Architectural Jewels of the University of Chicago. It is a veritable museum of architecture if you're not that familiar with the campus. So that's a 4-week class. Also, I'm coordinating a class. This one will be at Webull. It's called Practical AI. So it's not, you don't have to learn mathematical models or technical things about AI. We're just going to try to show you how you can use some of this new AI technology in your personal lives. I've done it to do things like help me with discussion questions for OLLI. I confess to doing that. It can help you figure out what to cook for dinner. You have helped me with a recipe for pancakes that my wife dearly loves to this day. So I think it'll be just an exciting 4-week diversion. If you want to hop on the train and come to Webull, or
Take the bus.
take the Northwestern inter-campus bus. So get out this summer and do a little travel.
Come find me afterwards if you have any questions about theater.
I'm Deb Clamage, and along with Dan Koha, who's unfortunately not here, we are going to be coordinating a 7-week class in the fall at Evanston that is based on Ezra Klein podcasts. Bob Myers and another person had this class online about a year or so ago, and I was in it and just loved it. It was a great way to pick a topic that you're interested in. And Klein, if you're not familiar with him, is a New York Times editorial or opinion writer, and he's so well researched, so well versed. He has really interesting conversations with people on all kinds of topics, and you pick the topic, you pick the podcast, and over 7 weeks we will discuss a different one each week. Roberta? It'll be the first 7 weeks, yeah, in person. And while we're plugging tables in the back, I'm part of the member enrichment committee, and we are the party people in Evanston. So we can always use an extra pair of hands. So if you're interested, please come join us at the back of the room.
Anybody else? I think we're all set. Let's, oh wait, we have one more, okay.
Connie, did you? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I was thinking fall, not summer.
Hi, I'm Mary Jo Huck, and Connie Carduck and I are coordinating a 4-week class this summer, and it will be virtual. Some of you may have been in the, excuse me, the 4-week winter class. on Tommy Orange. Tommy Orange is Cheyenne Arapaho tribal member, and his book There was published when he was, I think, 36. His first book, and he almost won the Pulitzer. Highly recommended by Barack Obama. So this is a follow-up book that just came out late in March called Wandering Stars. And it's 300 pages. We'll be reading it over 4 weeks. And I just finished reading it, and it's kind of different from There, which profiled different Native Americans, many of them very young, who lived in Oakland. And Tommy Orange says that the sound of traffic is much more familiar to them than the sound of water or trees, things moving through trees. And so his books are about the adjustment with becoming city people. He has a very tender approach to his characters, kind of somewhat stream of consciousness. And this newest book, Wandering Stars, was really well received by the New Yorker and the New York Times. And it starts with the ancestry of some of the people in the first book, but you don't really need to have read the first book. It stands alone. And it's going to be a wonderful class. We had 25 people in the winter who loved the book. There.
Are we done? Okay, it looks like we're done with all the presentations. Sign up. Wait, is there another?